No man causes more grief than one clinging blindly to the vices of his ancestors. William Faulkner. If history repeats itself and the unexpected always happens, how incapable must man be of learning from experience? George Bernard Shaw. Hi, I'm John Rose. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you watch enough of my videos, you know that I point out that history repeats itself for two main reasons. First one's reflected in that very first quote. Clinging blindly to the vices of our ancestors. For 3,000 generations, we've been clinging blindly to the vices of our ancestors. We've been cooking our food. And we somehow think that's an art, instead of it being a sin, the original sin, the biggest mistake we've ever made. So why can't we learn from our experience? Why can't we heed the words of Aristotle? Believe only your own fact, or believe only your own life. There's no fact like a fact learned from your own life. Why can't we trust our experience? Why can't we learn from our experience? Well, number one, we build up a tolerance to our mistakes because society attacked early. When we were helpless, we were taught to cling blindly to those vices and keep making the same mistakes they've been making. Excuse me, but I got something in my eye. Think I got it? That's one main reason why history repeats itself and why we can't trust our experiences. We have a malfunctioning survival mechanism. That's a big piece of the puzzle. I gave it piece number 5 in my special teaching tool, where the first 21 pieces are 21 main problems of knowledge, 2 forms of ignorance, 12 sources of false knowledge, 7 willingness factors. This is right on the top of the list of why we can't figure things out. It's a problem of knowledge. We have a malfunctioning survival mechanism. We build up a tolerance to our mistakes. We can't trust our own experiences. And of course, the other main reason why history repeats itself and why we can't learn from our experience is something George Bernard Shaw should understand, because he was one of the founders of the Fabian Society, established in 1884 to usher in a one world collectivist state. These guys know why history repeats itself. We don't have access to it. We've been lied to. The people we should look up to last century, the heroes of last century, have been demonized, and now they're the epitome of evil, just so that we can't learn that lesson. It's all about scarcity. It's an illusion. History repeats itself. We're going to have the same problems we had last century, because we've been tricked into thinking the good guys are the bad guys and the bad guys are the good guys. There's a lesson to be learned from that. We don't need to go into any details except realize that's how the psychopaths who rule the world work. They flip-flop things. The lesson has to do with who's printing your money, who's controlling your monetary system. And that's important because money is the absolute tool of control. That's what allows these sick people who own and control everything to brainwash everyone else. They own and control the government, the media, the educational systems. They control what our experts are taught. So you can get a PhD in nutrition, you can get a degree in medicine, I don't care if it's functional medicine, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be taught what you need to know about the very first big mistake we made. That is the fall of mankind. The cooking of our food. That is the vice that we keep clinging to. And we always look for some reason to go back to it, don't we? We love to hear good news about our bad habits. We don't want to think that those bad habits are the reason why we have the hell we live in, but it is. And I know that's hard to wrap your brain around for some of y'all, because you're eating cooked food and you're still a good person. You can't understand why that would make someone bad. Think of it this way. Look at the side effects from taking drugs. The average drug has about a dozen or so side effects, don't they? Does everyone manifest every one of those side effects? Of course not. 10% might get this one, 10% might get this one, 10% might get this one. It manifests differently with different people. And that's what I've realized. The 5 main mistakes we're making are literally causing hundreds of thousands of problems. The biggest problem is it destroys one of our senses. Now we're functioning on 5 and a fraction senses. And guess what? A lot of people can do okay with 5 and a fraction senses. A lot of people can still do okay and they have a serpent inside their belly. That waste matter that accumulates as we age. That doesn't mean it's not affecting some people adversely. Again, we have a bell of behavior, a bell of bad behavior. It's a bell-shaped curve. You guys know how statistics work. 96% of the people are in the middle of the bell. 2% are on the sides. So, sure, we can have people eating the wrong food and they're saints. You can't use that as a rationale to say it's okay to eat cooked food. Look at these people. They're the exception. And what you have to understand is the other side of the bell. These are the people who control our educational systems. They're the ones who misdirect our so-called experts so that we can in turn misdirect them. Or direct us, rather. It's a ruse. Again, history repeats itself for 2 main reasons. We teach our bad mistakes to our children, and the powers that be teach us a false version of history so that history repeats itself. We don't know what caused those wars last year. We don't know they all have to do with usury. Watch, all wars are bankers' wars. The powers that be finance both sides of the war. They instigate the wars. They create false flags. Remember, they're psychopaths. Their MO is divide and conquer. They got to remain invisible. They got to always focus attention on us or on anything but themselves. Again, George Bernard Shaw was one of the founders of the Fabian Society, established in 1884. Long-term plan to usher in a one-world collectivist state, a one-world government, a new world order, if you may. And we have to realize how we're being brainwashed. Now that I'm older, I can see the difference in different generations and in their beliefs based on how they've been brainwashed. And it's frightening to think if we keep going this direction, how brainwashed the next generations are going to be to come, where they're not going to be able to challenge authority whatsoever. But this is an exciting time to live. All of us play an amazing role at waking up at this point. We got to set aside any differences of age. We got to set aside any differences of sex. We got to set aside any differences of religion or color or anything else and everything else. Don't buy into this racism stuff. Don't buy into the false left-right paradigm that they want us to believe in. Stop watching the news. At least mainstream media. It's all bunk. We're being lied to. When you understand how conventional wisdom works, all they have to do is repeat something over and over and over and over. And we're going to believe it because we've heard it so many times. That's Satan's secret weapon. Got to watch that video. If you haven't watched it yet, please watch Satan's secret weapon. I'll be sure and put a link down below in the description box. I explain how governments go through cycles. I explain how democracy goes through cycles. I explain how the powers that be have been controlling us for over 3,000 years. They usurped the priesthood and the educational system, according to Yusuf Molins in the Curse of Canaan, 3,000 years ago. And they're Satanists. As Yusuf Molins points out, all conspiracies are satanic. You don't have to believe in God or the devil or Satan to understand how this works. These people do, and that's what they worship. That's their philosophy. They want us to suffer. They want animals to suffer. And how they do it is through our knowledge. We're being controlled by what we know. That's why it's important to understand the absolute tool of control, because if they didn't have that, they couldn't own and control all the other major sectors of a human endeavor that are used to brainwash us and bombard our brains with so much poppycock we can't think straight. We literally become brain dead on certain subjects simply because we hear something repeated over and over and over so many times. And again, society attacks early. We're taught a certain way to live, and we go out into the real world as we get older, and everybody's doing the same thing, aren't they? Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect, as Mark Twain once said. And I realized not too long ago that there's actually two sides to the majority. Because there's controlled opposition that controls the other part. We got the truth, and then we got poppycock. Got the majority. Most of us have been lied to, and we think certain things are true. And then when you have the truth, when you have a truth movement or a patriot movement, what you're going to find is most of the patriot leaders are really controlled opposition. So when you're on the side of the majority, not knowing the truth, you better pause and reflect. But then when you find the truth and you're on the side of the majority, then look out, because you're probably also on the wrong side, because most of our patriot leaders are controlled opposition. It's not easy to make sense out of this unless you really learn history. It wasn't until I studied what happened last century that I was able to make some sense out of everything. And now I realize why we were lied to. The powers that be don't want us to find out what's behind those wars and what really happened. It has to do with usury, the loaning of money at interest. All wars are bankers' wars. I'll put a link down below to a video, I think it's a 37-minute video by someone else that did a great job of explaining how this works. And it's important for us to understand this, but not to focus too much attention on it. We have to know our enemy, realizing that we are the enemy. And the biggest enemy of all is that small reflection of us that's on the edge of that bell, the psychopaths who rule the world. There's only one way to defeat that aspect of us, and that is for the whole bell to change. That's why I say over and over in all my videos, we all play a role in either keeping us in this hell we're at or getting us out of this hell by being a trim tab, by sharing this message, by gathering knowledge. Watch all my old videos if you haven't seen my old videos yet. If you didn't know, there are two main reasons why history repeats itself. You haven't watched enough of my videos. And some of my videos you got to watch 2 or 3 times to really get what I'm saying out of it. Because what I'm saying is extremely profound, and if you haven't had a chance to contemplate on some of these things, it's going to challenge your belief system. But remember what Aristotle said. The mark of an intelligent mind is the ability to entertain a thought without embracing it. So what we have to do with history, and I did a special video on how to evaluate history, I'll put a link down below for that also, is we have to look at the official version we've been given. It's bunk. Consider the possibility that there's another version, and then look at those 2 versions and consider both of them right and wrong, or true and false. So now we got 4 versions altogether. We start with one, and we don't question it. You got to question that, consider it's false, and then consider the other version, consider it false. And when you do that, it's obvious as all get out that there's no deception on one side, the side we haven't been told, but the side we're told, the official version, it's all deception. I did a video on, what did I call that? Official version denier. Put a link down below on that one also. We're being tricked, my friends. Every time someone's called a denier, that's because they're really telling the truth. And that goes to a lot of topics and a lot of subjects. And again, if you're not well read on certain subjects, you're going to be easily tricked by the Hegelian problem reaction solution. I'll put a link down below to that video also. They create the problem. They want us to react with fear, and then we'll be desperate to accept their solution. They're going to do it to us again this century. That's why it's important for us to understand. This is an important time for us to understand the 2 greatest illusions on this planet. One is the contagion myth, and the other is the scarcity myth. That in reality we live on an abundant planet, and health is supposed to be the standard, not dis-ease, not disease. It's health. See, they can't even pronounce dis-ease right. They call it disease to try to trick you. It's dis-ease, not at ease. It's part of your feedback system. Think of it as a warning light on the dashboard of your body, like you have warning lights on the dashboard of your car, to serve the same purpose. And in our case, it's telling us it doesn't like what we're putting in, for fuel mainly. But there's other things we have to do, right? You got to get that sunshine. You got to get some fresh air. Get a good night's sleep. Got to be positive mental attitude. I explained that we have 12 essential needs, 2 additional temporary needs in my other videos. Always go to the Ultimate Solution playlist. I have 11-part video series. And look at the description box and you'll be able to see where I mention all 281 pieces in that description box. So anytime you're not sure what I'm talking about, if I talk about like 5 main mistakes or whatever, or 2 additional temporary needs, I explain what video that is in, and you can go back and watch it. Remember, the hero's journey. Do you have the ears to hear? Do you accept the mission? Do you take a solid food vacation? Do you continue on the journey? Gather data, gather allies, watch more of my videos. Do you share the information? Do you share my videos? Do you share your knowledge and your experience? If all of us did that, folks, if all of us accepted the mission, tested an idea as time has come, documented our experience and shared our transformation with the world, this planet could wake up. We don't need any scientific studies to come along. That's not what it's going to do. Some of you people are so obsessed with wanting scientific studies. Don't you know science 100 years from now is going to be different? The one aspect of science is that it's always changing. We shouldn't rely on science. We should be able to reset our feedback system. That's why we take a solid food vacation. So we can get rid of piece number 5, that malfunctioning survival mechanism. That way we can heed the words of Aristotle. Believe only your own experience. There is no fact like a fact learned from your own life. We can't do that now because we build up a tolerance to our mistakes. So that's why we have to test an idea as time has come. That's why we got to see what we're missing. That's the only way we're going to figure out that we've been clinging blindly to the vices of our ancestors. And we can learn from experience if we can do the first thing, reset our feedback system, our survival mechanism, so we can finally realize that's not food. What was someone saying the other day? Something about food allergies. Well, most of the allergies people have that are food allergies, it's not even food. A different story if you're allergic to strawberries, but you can't be allergic to something that's not even food. So, it behooves all of us to accept this mission on the hero's journey, if you haven't done so yet. And if you haven't gone the distance and had the aha moment, then you got to keep going and do it again. And remember, this is something we got to do on an ongoing basis. If you've seen my videos for several years and you did one a long time ago, it's time to do another one. If you read the comment section on my videos, you're going to find that's what people are doing. They haven't just done it once, they did it again and again. We have to do this. That's why I do it usually once a year. I've done this over 1,200 days in the last 26 years. I know what I'm talking about. I've coached thousands of people. I know what I'm talking about. If you want scientific proof, do a solid food vacation on juices. In 1 week, you'll have all the proof you'll need. It's scientific proof. It's concrete, verifiable proof. It's indisputable proof that we're full of filth. And when this planet can get rid of that substance, we're in for a treat.